Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Gopidana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopidana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanam Sari Yamuna Tira Vanam Sari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Gopidana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopidana Vallabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Bol, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Jaya Radha Madhav Radha Madhav Radhe Radha Madhav Radha Jaya Radha Madhav Radha Madhav Radhe Radha Madhav Radha Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Pri Vrajagachaja Stotra Satya Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhai Charanaravind Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Skandi Biti Founder Charya's Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Namasarya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Harinam Sankirtan Ki Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Nainitai Gaura Pimanande. All that is to be assembled devotees, all that is to be assembled devotees, all that is to be assembled devotees, all that is to see Guru and to see Gauranga, all that is to Sri Prabhupada Ki. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Takshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaisnavam Sya Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savarutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakanditam Scha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Taptakantana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansakalpa Tarubhyasya Kripa Sindhu Vyaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, let us first offer our respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Nara, Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayasa badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tamasloke Bhaktir Bhaviti Naistiki. By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering a service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed and practically to nil, and loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samhitam Uttama Sloka Charitam Shakara Bhagavan Rishi Nisriya Sailokasya Dhanyam Swasyayanam Mahat. This Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantaraj, the king of all literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God as Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Sarabhyaya Namaha Om Sarabhyaya Namaha Om Sarabhyaya Namaha Mukam Karoti Vacharam Pangum Langayate Grim Yad Kripa Tamaham Bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam Yad Kripa Tamaham Bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna. Welcome to our morning Bhagavatam class, continuing from Canto number 1, chapter 11, entitled Lord Krishna's Entrance into Dvārakā. And today is text number 31. 31. Yes, 31. Patnyaha Patim Proshya Vihanupagatam Vilokya Sanjata Mano Mahotsavaha Utasthur Arat Sahasanasashayat Shakam Ratair Vritita Lochanananaha Patnya Patim Proshya Vihanupagatam Vilokya Sanjata Mano Mahotsavaha Utastur Arat Sahasasana Shayat Sakam Vrata Vidita Lochana Nanaha Patnya Patim Proshya Vihanupagatam Vilokya Sanjata Mano Mahotsavaha Utastu Darat Sahasasana Shayat Sakam Vrata Virida Sakam vratar vidita lochana nanaha.
Sakam vratar vidita lochana nana.
Patnya patim proshya grihanupagatam.
Patnya patim prosya grihanupagatam.
Vilukya sanjata mano mahutsavaha.
Vilokya sanjata mano manosava.
Utastu rarat sahasasana sayat.
Utasturara sahasrasana sayat.
Sakam vratar vridita lochana nanaha.
Sakam vratairita lochana nana.
Patim prosya grahanupagatam.
Patnyam patim prosya grihanupagatam.
Vilokya sanjata mano mahosavaha.
Vilukya sanjata mano mahutsavaha.
Tastu aras sahasasana satvat.
Utasturara
Arasa
sahasrasana sayat.
Sakam vratai vridita lucha nanaha.
Sambrata vidita lochana nanaha.
Patim prosya gruhanupagatam.
Patnya patim prosya grihanupagatam.
Vilokya sanjata mano mahotsava.
Vilokya sanjata mano mahutsavaha.
Dastur ara sahasasana sayat.
Utastu radat sahasasana sayat.
Sakam vrtai vridita lochana nana.
Sakam vrata vidita lochana nanaha.
Patnai patim prosya grihanupagatam.
Patnya patim prosya grihanupagatam.
Vilokya sajata mano mahotsava.
Vilokya sanjata mano mahutsavaha.
Utasturata sahasashana sayat.
Utastu rarat sahasasana sayat.
Sakam vratir vidita lochana nana.
Sakam vrata vidita lochana nanaha.
Patim prosya gruhanupagatam.
Patnya patim prosya grihanupagatam.
Vilokya sanjata mano mahotsavaha.
Vilokya sanjata mano mahutsavaha.
Suara sahasasana sayat.
Utastu rarat sahasasana sayat.
Sakim vrate vidita lochana nanaha.
Sakam vrata vridita lochana nanaha.
Patim prosya grihanupagatam.
Patnya patim prosya grihanupagatam. Vilokya sanjata mano mahutsavaha. Utastu radat sahasasana sayat. Sakam vrata vridita lochana nanaha. Patnyaha,
Patnyaha,
the ladies,
ladies,
wives of Lord Sri Krishna.
wives of Lord Krishna.
Patim,
Patim,
husband,
husband,
Roshya,
Rosya,
who was away from home.
who was away from home.
Griha anupagatam,
Griha anupagatam,
now returned home.
now returned home.
Vilokya,
Vilokya,
thus seeing.
thus seen.
Sanjata,
Sanjata,
having developed.
having developed.
Manaha maha utsavaha,
Manaha Maha Utsava,
a sense of joyful ceremony
a sense of joyful ceremony
within the mind.
within the mind.
Utastuhu,
Utasuhu,
got up.
got up.
Arat,
Arat,
from a distance.
from a distance.
Sahasa,
Sahasa,
all of a sudden.
all of a sudden.
Asana,
Asana,
from the seats.
from the seats.
Ashayat,
Asayat,
from the state of meditation.
from the state of meditation.
Sakam,
Sakam,
along with.
along with
Vratai,
Vratai,
the vow.
the vow.
Vriddita,
Vriddita,
looking coyly.
looking coyly.
Lochana,
Lochana,
eyes.
eyes.
Ananaha,
Anana,
with such faces.
with such faces.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. The queens of Lord Sri Krishna rejoiced within their minds to see their husband home after a long period abroad. The queens got up at once from their seats and meditations, as was socially customary. They covered their faces shyly and looked about coyly. Kindly repeat after me. The queens of Lord Sri Krishna
The queens of Lord Krishna
rejoiced within their minds
rejoiced with their minds
to see their husband home
to see their husband home
after a long period abroad.
after a long period abroad.
The queens got up at once
The queens got up at once
from their seats and meditations,
from their seats and meditations,
as was socially customary.
as was socially customary.
They covered their faces shyly
They covered their faces shyly
and looked about coyly.
and looked about coyly.
Everyone knows what it's coyly? Coyly, I don't know what's another adjective for coyly. It's connected with shyness. Coyly means, I don't know, what does it say? Dictionary. Like here and there, like
Joyfully.
huh?
Joyfully.
Joyfulness?
Yeah.
That's the dictionary?
Yes.
Coyly. What's the dictionary say? Huh?
Yeah, like a trust.
Coyly. What's the definition, dictionary definition? Hey, you don't have the dictionary access?
Outwardly,
Huh?
shy or modest ways that is
Again, repeat.
coyly means in and outwardly.
In
and outwardly.
and outwardly.
Shy or modest way that is intended to be alluring.
To be
Alluring.
alluring. Yeah, it's like you look at somebody. Yeah. Okay. Purport. As mentioned above, the Lord entered his home palaces occupied by 16,108 queens. This means that the Lord at once expanded himself in as many plenary expansions as there were queens and palaces, and entered in each and every one of them simultaneously and separately. Here's another manifestation of the feature of his internal potency. He can expand himself in as many forms of spiritual identity as he desires, even though he is one without a second. It is confirmed in the Shruti mantra that the Absolute is one alone, and yet he becomes many as soon as he so desires. These manifold expansions of the Supreme Lord are manifested as plenary and separated portions. The separated portions are representations of his energy, and the plenary portions are manifestations of his personality. Thus, the personality of Krishna manifested himself in 16,108 plenary expansions, and simultaneously entered into each and every one of the palaces of the queens. This is called Vaibhava, or the transcendental potency of the Lord. And because he can do so, he is known as Yogeshvara. Ordinarily, a yogi or mystic living being is able to expand himself at utmost to tenfold expansions of his body. But the Lord can do so to the extent of as many thousands or infinitely as he likes. Unbelievers become astonished to learn that Lord Krishna married more than 16,000 queens, because they think of Lord Krishna as one of them, and measure the potency of the Lord by their own limited potency. One should know, therefore, that the Lord is never on the level of the living beings, who are but expansions of his marginal potency. And one should never equalize the potent and the potency, although there is very little difference of quality between the potent and the potency. The queens were also expansions of his internal potency, and thus the potent and potencies are perpetually exchanging transcendental pleasures, known as pastimes of the Lord. One should not therefore become astonished to learn that the Lord married so many wives. On the contrary, one should affirm that even if the Lord marries 16,000 million wives, he is not completely manifesting his unlimited and inexhaustible potency. He married only, Prabhupada underlines only 16,000 wives, and entered in each and every one of the different palaces just to impress in the history of the human beings on the surface of the earth that the Lord is never equal to or less than any human being, however powerful he may be. And no one, therefore, is either equal to or greater than the Lord. The Lord is always great in all respects. God is great, is eternal truth. Therefore, as soon as the queens saw from a distance their husband, who was away from home for long periods due to the battle of Kurukshetra, they all arose from the slumber of meditation and prepared to receive their most beloved. According to Yajnavalkya's religious injunctions, a woman whose husband is away from home should not take part in any social functions, should not decorate her body, should not laugh, and should not go to any relative's house in any circumstance. This is the vow of the ladies whose husbands are away from home. At the same time, it is also enjoined that a wife should never present herself before the husband in an unclean state. She must decorate herself with ornaments and good dress, and should always be present before the husband in a happy and joyous mood. The queens of Lord Krishna were all in meditation, thinking of the Lord's absence, and were always meditating upon him. The Lord's devotees cannot live for a moment without meditating on the Lord. And what to speak of the queens, who are all goddesses of fortune, incarnated as queens in the pastimes of the Lord at Dvārakā. They can never be separated from the Lord, either by presence or by trance. The gopis at Vrindavan could not forget the Lord when the Lord was away in the forest cowherding. when the Lord boy Krishna was absent from the village. The gopis at home used to worry about him traversing the rough ground with his soft lotus feet. By thinking thus, they were sometimes overwhelmed in trance and mortified in their heart. Such is the condition of the pure associates of the Lord. They are always in trance. And so the queens also were in trance during the absence of the Lord. Presently, having seen the Lord from a distance, they at once gave up all their engagements, including the vows of women as described above. According to Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, there was a regular psychological reaction on the occasion. First of all, rising from their seats, although they wanted to see their husband, they were deterred because of feminine shyness. But due to strong ecstasy, they overcame that stage of weakness and became caught up with the idea of embracing the Lord. And this thought actually made them unconscious of their surrounding environment. This prime state of ecstasy annihilated all other formalities and social conventions, and thus they escaped all stumbling blocks on the path of meeting the Lord. And that is the perfect stage of meeting the Lord of the soul, Sri Krishna. Translation again. The queens of Lord Sri Krishna rejoiced within their minds as to see their husband home after a long period abroad. The queens got up at once from their seats and meditations. As was socially customary, they covered their faces shyly and looked about coyly. So in this purport, Srila Prabhupada covers a number of important points. One of them being how the Lord can expand himself here in 16,108 forms. Same form, but 16,108 times, which for ordinary people is like unacceptable or unbelievable. But as Krishna explained in the Bhagavad Gita, his appearance and activities are all transcendental and cannot be so easily understood. So the Lord is unlimited, omnipotent, omnipresent, and he displays through these different activities, especially in Dvārakā, by expanding himself. The Lord also expands himself in Vrindavan, isn't it? In a Rasa Lila dance, for example. So the Lord is able to perform we call superhuman activities, and for the devotee that is acceptable, understandable, because the Lord is by nature having these different potencies. That means that at that time Dvārakā must have been a very mystical place. It's like 16,108 palaces, And there's a nice description of Narada Muni being astonished and describing his astonishment of the pastimes of the Lord. Like in this material world, Prabhupada makes reference here also, yogis, some yogis, they can actually expand themselves, but only up to 8 or 10 times. I'd heard 8 before, now it's mentioned 10 in the purport. But when they expand themselves, it's like a television. You can have many televisions and it's the same activity going on. So yogis who expand themselves, they speak the same thing, or they will do the same thing. But Narada Muni was noticing how Krishna in Dvārakā, he's that same personality who's expanding 16,108 times, but he's performing different activities. Sometimes he's sitting with his children and talking with them. Sometimes he's with his queen. Sometimes he's taking prasadam, different activities. So that is totally inconceivable for us, and but that is the nature of the Supreme Lord. What is also referred to, of course, is the what is meant to be the what are meant to be, the activities of the wife if the husband is away from home. There are, I mean, we're reading in the purport, ladies should not participate in social activities. I think it's obvious why, because actually ladies should be always with their husband. Vedic culture, ladies are not, as we see in modern day society, independently on their own, associating or traveling. Nowadays, people think it is quite okay, but actually it's not as per the Vedic culture. Why? Because there's so many dangers that are there. In terms of exploitation or so many bad things happen, as we know. That's why, for example, big controversy recently regarding allowing women to work at night. I mean, in the Vedic culture, women don't work, you know, outside the home. They work at home. I mean, they're engaged in so many activities. Now modern day so-called culture has developed and allowed, and it used to be that, women should not should not work at night, but I think more recently that was kind of, they can work at night. What's the problem? As long as there's proper security and whatnot. So the very fact that there needs to be security is an indication that it is not natural, And very major incident recently happened in Calcutta, actually, big scandal and commotion and whatnot. So, in other words, Vedic culture is we could say setting some standard as to what activities, what is advisable, acceptable, in terms of the behavior and activities of both men and women. And we need to hear from these pastimes, which are meant to be instructive for us in terms of how society is meant to be arranged and how men and women are meant to interact with one another, etc. And of course, we see here how the ladies, upon hearing that the Lord was coming and upon seeing the Lord, they were very eager to associate with him. In many places in the purport, it mentions how the ladies were were in ecstasy in seeing the Lord, but at the same time were were having some limitations. Limitations means that, as we have read before and as we are reminded here also, ladies, even though it is their husband, are meant to act in a particular way. The quality of shyness is being underlined again. We've read it before. And Prabhupada explains how this shyness for women is a check, so that they're not just unnecessarily even associating so openly or so freely with their husband. So Vedic culture has these, we could say, built-in guidelines, which ultimately are for helping individuals keep the main focus, which is actually to progress spiritually and not, or to avoid, we could say, becoming materially entangled or overly involved and overly associating, let's say, on the simply merely on the bodily platform. And also in the Vedic culture, yeah, for the ladies, this is obvious within the context of the Vedic culture. Ladies, or the wives, wives are meant to make spiritual progress by, at least that is meant to be the norm. Ladies are meant to be to make spiritual progress under the direction and guidance of the husband. We may say that, well, this is not really the case in modern day society, but modern day society is not, to a large extent, is very very far removed from what is meant to be an ideal society. So that is part of our challenge today, how to, when we read these descriptions, how to apply this in our present day context as devotees. Okay. Yes. Hare Krishna. So how to answer this question? What we are reading here, and what we read in other parts of the Bhagavatam also, where it is describing, especially in terms of family life, in terms of relation or interaction between husband and wife, in the modern context of the 21st century in which we're living, how to apply these principles.
By establishing relation.
Well, that's a very general. By chanting Hare Krishna. Yes.
We have to show some examples.
We have to show some examples.
By creating a community where people are living like that. And ladies are trained also like that.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, means by creating a situation where what we are seeing here can actually be given an opportunity to actually happen or manifest. Yeah, that's a good point, actually. Yes.
A few days ago, someone asked if there is a counseling system
Counseling.
for young couples or not. So it's including that the Vedic family have a goal to produce nice children and raise them to spiritually, not materially. So if you can understand from these points that there are actions and consequences.
Actions?
It means there are behaves and then the behaves have consequences. So if the ladies doesn't behave according to the Vedic system, they would meet with the children who are not really behaving according to their will, and they will suffer. And they will suffer for many years because children will be rebellious. If they are rebellious, children become rebellious.
Rebel.
Rebel.
Okay, rebelling,
So
correct.
they will behave badly. Like there is a story of how Kamsa to birth. The mother of Kamsa was not following these rules, and one demonical person could take advantage of that situation, and the result become Kamsa.
Yes.
And no one wanted it.
Well, we have many Kamsas today, huh?
Yeah, because of the same thing.
Most definitely.
It's a natural consequences.
Yes.
So if the people understand, they will want to follow Vedic system.
Yes. Actually, that's a good point. That if one of the goals and objectives, and that was one of the fears, Arjuna's fear, isn't it? At the beginning, before the battle of Kurukshetra, that women will be unprotected, and that will create unwanted progeny. So progeny means like creating, having children. Prajapati means progenitor, who create. So it's like animals create in a very different way than humans are meant to create. So there's a whole culture, there's a whole plan and program which, yes, will have a direct bearing or direct effect on the praja, on those who are taking birth. And the Vedic culture is very, very aware of the dangers of bad progeny. And that's why, for example, within the system of Varna and Ashrama, the ideal is that one should marry within one's varna, so that there's more opportunity for better progeny. So yes, the especially because we have very severely, very very badly deviated from what is meant to be the norm. There's a need for preparing. Actually, the whole Vedic culture. That's why brahmacharya life is meant to prepare both the young boy and the young girl, actually, in before entering marriage. Most people nowadays, and many of our own devotees, I cannot say most devotees, but many devotees are not properly prepared to enter marriage. They don't understand. And therefore, the rate of divorce and separation has continually increased in modern day society to, it's like the majority people end up in separation and divorce. And of course, that's understandable because the primary goal and objective of life, which is self-realization, is absent, is not there. Instead of husband and wife focusing on the lotus feet of Krishna, the husband focuses on the lotus feet of the wife, and maybe vice versa. It's like, instead of going this way, it's like this. And inevitably, one becomes delusion because at some point old age sets in. At some point, there is disagreement because it's mutual kind of. The goal is one's own sense gratification, largely. So how else to address creating communities, giving that's one of the important I would say one of the important, if not the most important means by which we create an atmosphere and a situation, for example, where everyone is a practicing devotee, where people are more connected with what is meant to be their prescribed duty, because we were discussing the other day how majority of people in the world today are not actually performing what is meant to be the Vedic prescribed duties. Vedic prescribed duties being largely connected with a more simplified lifestyle, connected with, with nature, being more sensitive to nature, to the cows. Cows, you know, we may think, well, it's not cows. Most people cannot relate to cows, and even cannot imagine of maybe living in a village also. But actually, that is, we have to do a lot of, I would say we have to do a lot of homework as devotees to actually ourselves become convinced and to understand that actually this is the norm. We may say, well, it's not, whole modern society is just not conducive for that. Well, it's not conducive for that because it's going on in a demoniac direction, isn't it? It's taken on a direction that is based on basically expanding more and more, the four sinful activities of life, as opposed to regulating one's life and focusing on practicing self-realization.
Then the boys have to be well educated.
The boys have to be well educated. I would say that the girls also have to be well educated. I mean, the boys and both. No?
Yes.
Right. So how this education will come? By coming to Varnashram College. Actually, I mean, how else?
You cannot, because parents don't know. So what to do? Someone have to teach.
Yes, modern day parents of ordinary people and modern day parents of devotees don't have that knowledge, because modern day people in general, some of whom become devotees, have been trained the wrong way, have not received from childhood actually. See, it all begins in childhood. It all begins in childhood. And for parents, actually, even before even before children come into the family, the consciousness of the parents has to be proper, correct? Yeah. So, and generally, when it's not there, it's because it's not been cultivated in the childhood. Yeah. So it means that actually our program as devotees and as a society is like immense. It's like it is so in so many ways actually seems like impossible, because it's a huge task, huge endeavor, huge undertaking, and in so many ways it's like easier not to take it up. But actually that is going against dharma, because our dharma is not simply to work on our individual self, but part of our dharma, especially in Kali Yuga, where majority of people don't even know the word dharma. It's the foremost, is meant to be the foremost duty and responsibility of Vaishnavas. Paradukha. Vaishnavas by nature are meant to be compassionate, and compassion needs to be cultivated within our own self. Compassion just doesn't appear. Compassion, it cannot be imitated. It is not artificial. Real compassion can only come when one is actually practicing, very sincerely, very deeply what is Krishna consciousness. So the mood of our acharyas, Srila Prabhupada's mood, Srila Prabhupada's mentality, Srila Prabhupada's vision, and Srila Prabhupada's mission is to bring about, isn't it, to reintroduce the values that are that are built in the Vedic culture. And one of the most dangerous situations we could say in the world today is the attack on what is called the nucleus family as a natural, as what is meant to be the natural and norm in society. What we call the family nucleus, mother, father, and children, has been broken very badly in modern day society. And therefore, Vedic culture therefore gives so much of importance to having a responsible father, a responsible mother, and what is meant to be their interrelationship. When there is an ideal mother, an ideal father, naturally what will happen? There will be ideal children. Yeah. They will be responsible, exemplary, and the creation of those responsible fathers and mothers can best be done, as you rightly mentioned, by creating communities. Therefore, the importance of creating communities. I mean, very, very, we cannot create communities within temples. Temples, temples in our big cities are actually meant, in many ways, to educate, to train our devotees, but to train our devotees in two ways, in two major ways. One is that they be very much involved in the preaching mission by distributing books, by going out on Harinam, by cultivating congregation, people who are living in the cities on the one hand, but the other important duty and responsibility of our city temples, which is not something we think about in most of our temples, is to prepare devotees to actually live in communities outside the cities, to create communities that are described in the Shastra, either in village or in cities like Dvārakā, which is we're very far away from having cities like Dvārakā. And in one sense, it is more urgent. There's a greater urgency to create communities in our villages. Why? Because no one is there to protect the land, to protect the cows, isn't it? That's one of our great challenges within our society, to help our devotees understand that need to actually create communities outside the cities. We can create communities in our cities also, but the complete community, or the community that will completely address the different aspects of the Vedic culture in terms of food production, in terms of cow protection, is not in the city, because you can't grow food on a large scale in the city, and you can't properly protect cows in the city. Cows are meant to be protected where there's open land, open fields, where they can graze, isn't it? Where there's nature. And majority people should be where they can grow their own food and take up what is meant to be the prescribed duty of the majority of householders, actually. And our householders don't understand this. Majority of our householders don't understand. Majority of our devotees here are not householders.
But they will.
Some will. Well, one householder, two householders. Majority are here. There's no one behind you. Majority presently are not householders. So anything else from here? Yes.
I have a question. In our purport, we have read circumstances
Circumstances.
to the woman
Yes.
when when their husband are not in home.
And home. Yes.
Other things are understandable to me. The should not take part in any social function.
Yes.
Should not decorate her body.
Yes.
And should not go in any relative house.
And should not laugh.
Yes.
And
But-
should not.
But
Yes.
the fourth one should not laugh.
Okay.
It's not understandable to me. Means in Sri Krishna's case is a short period of time.
Huh?
Short period of time in Sri Krishna case when you have in Vedic culture and the West communities,
Vaishya.
yes.
Okay.
So their husband go for trade like 10 to 12 years
Husband goes for 10 to 12 years
for trade,
for
trade,
Trading.
for business.
in the Vedic culture.
Yes.
Where is that?
They go like they are in ship to other countries to trade. So,
To do some trading work related to trading work. They would go to visit some places.
Not for 10 to 12 years.
sometimes it's take 10 to 10 years, and generally it take 5 to 10, 5 years, 6 years, 1 year, 2 years.
Well, what we generally, and that might take place, but that is not the norm. The norm is that actually we hear about localized living. So a husband is not meant to be far away from home for extended periods of times. It may happen, but that is not really the norm. Majority of people, majority of families, majority of household, the husband will be actually, a husband needs to be there because children are there. You know, maybe it happens for people who don't have any more children or something, but for bringing up both Hare Krishna, Vedant, Ki Jai. So for raising up, the upbringing of children, the presence of both parents is needed, is important. So the idea behind not laughing, not laughing is that normally when we laugh, we are in a happy mood, and we generally laugh when we are interacting with other people. It means that actually when the husband is away, as mentioned here, actually the wife is not meant to attend social events, and she's meant to be at home and to be, in other words, more reserved. Yeah. So, in other words, it's like my Prabhu, my husband, is my Swami, is away. So there's a certain kind of like maybe sadness that is there. It's like when your beloved is not there, then you won't. It's natural that you will not. What is it? You will not be happy or not show signs of happiness without his presence, or at least you'll be reserved.
The wife should not move right to anybody.
The wife
Should not smile to any man.
should not mix,
No, not smiling. Not good.
not marry. Huh?
I'm explaining to him, the way it is. That should not be done. What laughing? Not good. Yeah, he understands.
No, but that's his question. He's telling that he understands those three things, but he doesn't understand why women should not laugh. Yeah. Because the husband is away. So when the husband is away, she will be showing signs that that the husband is away by not going, and in other words, she's depending on the husband, and she derives her happiness when the husband is there and interacting with her like that.
the reason why I said we should train the men, boys.
Why we should train the boys?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. From astrology, I saw if it is advice. If the man is well trained, he can influence the woman and can help her to change. For the emergency, we can concentrate faster on the men, boys train them well for this topic, and then they can know how to bring.
So your point is, yeah, if we can train boys or men, young men especially, then they will be in a better position to train maybe their future wife or their wife. Yeah. Well, one could also say if we train women, they can help to train their men. Sometimes it happens. Is it easier for the men to train the women, or for the women to train the men?
That before that, a man should train you.
It's probably more Vedic for the men to train the women than the women to train the men.
Yes.
As it is said in previous verses that for the woman, the husband is just like master,
Swami.
spiritual master.
Yes.
So, in this regard, Prabhu emphasized that it is, I think so, it is correct.
Okay, not contact. He's supporting you.
Yeah.
I mean, Prabhu is correct.
Naturally, it's like this.
Yeah.
There's a teacher and a student.
Yes.
What is more normal? That the teacher teach the students, or that the student teach the teacher?
The teacher teaches the student.
I mean, the teacher may sometimes learn something from the student, but by definition, it's not the position of the student to teach the teacher. Although teacher may, maybe by seeing the good behavior or saying, hearing something that the student will say, that the teacher may learn something. But by nature or by definition, a student is not meant to teach the teacher. Yeah. So if we can accept, at least theoretically, that in the Vedic culture there is Swami, the husband, and Sri, the wife, then it is the Swami who is meant to actually guide, protect, and teach and train the wife. Yeah. Yes.
When
Last point.
discussing this subject, sometimes people ask me because I used to say I grew with my grandmother.
Okay.
I say, oh, it's the woman who educated you.
Ah.
Okay, then my grandmother used to say, because I was with my father, I learned so many things from my father. It's that thing I'm telling you. My grandmother used to say that. She said, I learned those things from my father.
Your grandmother, okay.
Yeah, my grandmother was very close to her father before. So she learned so many things from the father.
Okay. Yes.
Then she used to teach me.
Okay.
Not by her own giving.
Right. Yes. Okay. Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Gauda Primanande.
Jai.
So it is Vedant, sure, not Vedanta.